Hey everyone, Isimemen Jovi here, business and career growth strategist and founder of Fulfilled, the #1 transformational career coaching program for Black women and women of color. Our goal is to help you skyrocket your salary, land your dream job, and live a rich, fulfilling life. I am here with one of my favorite clients, honestly, Eshe Lewis. And this conversation is long overdue. Eshe, today we're going to talk about the goodness, the greatness, the awesomeness that is you. And just your journey, your story. You inspire me. The way you came into Fulfilled and took action and ran. And it's been maybe, I don't know, like a year plus, and you're still running. And so, Eshe, just tell us a little bit about you, like what you do, your work, your years of experience, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty.
Sure, for sure. Well, first of all, Isi, thank you so much for having me back to chat with you. You're an absolute dream to work with, and we will get into it. But really, like this program has meant so much to me, and I really do just feel like you came into my life at the right time. Like I really needed you, and I needed the women in this program, and you guys just blew the roof off of what my expectations were. So it is a pleasure for me to speak to you. I am Canadian. I am Afro-Caribbean. I am an anthropologist. So I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Toronto, and then I moved on to master's and PhD in Latin American studies. And I have always worked with the African diaspora in Latin America. That's been like my passion, my joy, just like working for and with Black people. It's just, that is like my purpose. That's where I feel at home. That's when I feel good. And so I did a lot of work on gender violence. I did the first study on Black women who went through the government resource services and so that was my dissertation work. And I got into Fulfilled probably right as I had come out of the program, and I was just kind of floundering a bit. Like I didn't really feel like I knew how to get to where I needed to be next. And I had just gotten a job, like my very first job. And I was like, it took me a long time. I was struggling to just figure out, like I left academia. I knew I didn't necessarily want to be a professor. I liked teaching, but I just kind of said, like that's not where I feel like I need to be, but I didn't know how to get to where I wanted to go. And so I ended up on Fulfilled's doorstep. And that's how I met you. Yeah.
Journey. Wow, Eshe, can you tell me what really made you say, I need help from experts? Because you're brilliant. You are, right? We can own that. That's one thing we do in Fulfilled. We own our greatness. And you're brilliant. And you could have been like, well, let me just figure it out on my own and X, Y, Z. What about what you were going through felt like it warranted another level of help and expertise?
Well, I tried on my own, like I really tried by myself. I am the kind of person who tries really hard to kind of like get out there. If I have a question, I look for the answer. And so I'd sort of gone through job forums. I went through the regular channels, right? And it's so overwhelming now because there are all of these positions, but it feels like you're even more removed from employers. And so you're just sort of trying to funnel your resume out into the world, and many times you don't hear back from anyone. I think for me, also coming out of academia, I was really taught how to be an academic. I wasn't taught how to go out into the world, even though most academics and people with PhDs, they don't end up working in academia, right? And so I was having this real struggle being like, well, do I just go back to this thing I know how to do, but don't really love? And I just kept saying like, you deserve to do what you like to do. You're really good at this. And, I knew what I could do when I had the right direction. And so that's what I was looking for. And I think with your program, first of all, I love Black women. Like Black women, I will buy just about anything from Black women. I just love giving Black women my money. I do. But also I was like, there are so many programs out there. And I felt like you really spoke to where I was, right? Like you have the potential. I am not treating you like an empty vessel. You know yourself. I am just going to give you the tools and the guidance you need to get where you need to go. Like I felt like you were so streamlined in your message, and I loved that it wasn't like some sugar-coated, like I'm just gonna wave my magic wand and you're gonna get there. It was like, no, this is this is what I need. Like, and I'm not looking to get a job. I'm looking for a skill set that I can use to take me into the future, right? Like things that I can use to modify where I am at a given point in time. That to me, like as a researcher, as an academic, as a woman, like that speaks to me. And so that is what I think ultimately helped me decide on you. And I think I spoke to you before we ended up in the program, and I was like, yeah, I believe her. Like
I'm
in
in.
the sense that you felt like I felt like you were very genuine, like you were very honest and you were very genuine. And that also speaks to me, right? Because, you know, it's an investment, but I feel like when you invest with the right people, like we need to bet on ourselves. Like, and I was just like, I'm just gonna bet on myself. Like the worst thing that can happen is that I end up right where I am and I'll figure it out. But if there's a chance I could make it further, then I would be cheating myself if I didn't try.
You said so many things. I'm like, girl, how much time we got today? What I love is, it's so funny because I know this sounds so taboo, but I'm not afraid to say it. Helping people land their dream jobs is like the smallest win. When people hear that, they're like, wait, aren't you supposed to be like convincing me that I'm going to make millions of dollars so you should come work? I'm like, you making more money and you land your dream job is actually like the 4th, 5th level win. When you get the skill set to knock down any door you want, to get invitations to any table you desire, you are unstoppable. Like you and like you've been grown, you've been doing this, and we haven't done any coaching work a year plus. But you just keep doing this because you got the skills, you got the mindset, you got the confidence. So you'll always win. And you're going to share some of your wins with us and some things that really happened for you. But Eshe, like you got it. You absorbed, you became the woman. And now you just like walk into opportunities. Like when you were in the program and you're like, I need to be making more money in my role. And you literally put the deck together that we talked about. And your manager's like, you deserve more money. And boom, when everyone told you there was no money. And, you know, we'll talk about that a little later, but I just love that you grasped that. You became the woman. You didn't just come in to get the job, you became. And that's what we were trying to do in Fulfilled.
Thank you. Yeah. But I did it with support. Like, I do also want to say, like, I did it with incredible support. Like, I think you and Sharif, and we can talk about all of that later, but like, I feel like I had the foundation to make those leaps because it's still scary, right? Like it's scary to put yourself out there. It's scary to say this. It's scary to be a Black woman in a white world that's like, you don't deserve this. You are asking too much. You're, you know, it's suspicious that you're even speaking up, right? So it's not that I wasn't scared, but I was like, I have a clear strategy for how to do this. And that for me was like everything.
Game changer. To me about your experience in Fulfilled. I know there were just so many wins and so many great things, but talk to me from a programmatic standpoint, like what about the program was just like really impactful for you and helped you shift? And then can you talk us through like some of those wins that you experienced with the program?
Sure. Okay. So being in Fulfilled, I think I'm always, when I step into a new space, I'm always like, okay, who's here? You know, like I really came in just interested to know, like, this program spoke to me, who else did it speak to? And I felt like right from the start, it was hard work. Like the hustle energy in that group is just like, I was like, my people, you know, like I was just like, this is beautiful. But it's so beautiful to like see women who are like, I want to go somewhere. And you're like, I'm helping you to build the car or the plane or like the submarine. We're going to get you where you need to go. And I think I really felt like it was one of those come as you are spaces. Like you got your bonnet on, your braids haven't been done, your kids crawling all over you, you know, your mom's yelling at you up the stairs. Like, I just want you here. And that's what I felt. And that's what resonated with me because that's how I operate when I'm working with other women. It's like, I don't need you to put on a show. I need you to come as you are, as long as you're ready. And even if you're not, like, I really just want you to be here. And it's so uncommon to be like, this is a service, right? Like you're in a program, but people genuinely want you there. And I think it's so sad that so many people don't have that experience. And I try to take that with me into like the job that I'm doing now. But that really struck me. So like I felt comfortable. And because I didn't feel like I had to look a certain way or like play a certain part, I felt like I could really focus. Like I could focus on myself, but I could also focus on the other women in the group, right? Because when I came in, there were other women at different points in their processes. And And I think that aspect too, that team aspect of seeing other people grow and really being able to cheer for other people without it being about competition, without it secretly being like some undercutting, energy, that was so beautiful.
Mhm.
And I love that you wanted to hear from us, whether it was going great or not. Like, I think we're always like, I won and I won again and I won again. Like, that's not the way life works. And I feel like you were so realistic about the journey that we're all on, right? And so really working on lifting people up and being encouraging, pushing people further when they needed it, celebrating people even when they didn't feel like celebrating themselves, like
Yeah.
that really for me, it was like what the essence of fulfilled was for me. And I loved going into that space on Tuesday. And I attended while I was in Peru, like during the pandemic, and like had
Mhm.
very restricted movement sometimes. And so like coming into this portal and just feeling like I had space to share
Yeah.
with these women who were going through so many different experiences was just really beautiful and really special.
Wow. Thank you, Eshe. And I love that we do create a space where it's come as you are. Sometimes I have calls with people, they're like, I'm a mom and my kids are in the back. I was like, girl, please. People's kids are saying hi sometimes. And it's not like super distracting where people can't learn, but it's like, come with everything you're going through, with
Mhm.
all of who you are. There are nights when people are crying. There are nights where people need to be lifted up. There are nights where people are not doing their work and we have to kind of get on them, right? So I love that you pull that out because it is true. And that's what makes us special. And that's what makes Fulfilled unlike anything else. There is a obsessive passion around seeing our women succeed.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. And I will say, like, for my experience, I was also going through a really hard time as well,
Yeah.
because my mom was
Mhm.
sick, right? And you were all so supportive. Like, it wasn't just about the job. It's like you're a whole person. We want to know what's going on in your life because obviously that's going to impact the other things you're doing, and it's going to impact the kind of moves you can make. And you were so supportive. You sent me flowers, like you asked about my mom, like I think, when you really have something weighing on your heart and people don't acknowledge that, it can be really, really painful and it can really stop you from developing both professionally, but also personally in that space. And so, like, that meant so much to me and to my mom. She was like, what's Isi doing? How's Isi doing? How are those kids doing?
Oh,
Like
sweet.
it felt like there was space for
Yeah.
like all of me in
Yeah.
your program.
Yeah. And because you were able to bring all of you, you started making incredible strides. I mean, you went from someone who really wasn't doing a ton on LinkedIn to connecting with world leaders, putting out incredible content. I mean, you're an anthropologist, which is super cool. People always wonder, can Fulfill work for me if I do this? I mean, you're an anthropologist. That's not a run-of-the-mill career, yet you had doors just flying open. You were visiting countries, being invited to things. So can you talk to us a little bit about like the transformation you
Sure.
underwent and some of those wins you began to experience?
So when I started, I was a fellow. And that was good. Like I had a mentor. I was also working there. That was my first job out of my program, right? So I was really like, how do I do this, right? Like, how do I figure out what I want? And I felt like my compass was just spinning, like I didn't know where my north was. And then after I did Golden Triangle, like the mythical Golden Triangle, like this Golden Triangle, it was like it took everything that was rolling around in my head and just like condensed it. And when I saw like my final thing at the end, and that thing was work. Like I would come home and be like, I would love to chat with everyone, but I got to go work on the Golden Triangle. But when I did it, it was like you unlocked yourself, And so I think, and I still to this day like go back and look at it and be like, remember, this is what you like. When you start getting really excited about something, it's probably because it's in some way involved in like in that, right? And so once I had that sense of who I was and what I wanted, it became a lot easier for me to like figure out what skills I had and how I could mold them into so many different job opportunities, because as an anthropologist I have a lot of skills and so do so many people, but we don't know how to talk about it outside of the way we're trained. And so that was huge for me. And so once I did that and I realized, I do like writing, I do like being creative, so like taking on LinkedIn was another challenge, but it was something that like gave me I kept looking at these things as like opportunities to express myself. I actually need to update my LinkedIn, but I know how to do it. So I was like updating my LinkedIn, reworking my resume, really looking at my resume and being like, yeah, I'd hire me. Like I feel like I've got something going on. And I think this is like the mindset part, which I will say at the beginning, when you're like, I am not making enough money, I cannot meet my needs, like your focus is so small because you're like, and it's not wrong or bad, it's just realistic, right? Like when you're hungry, you don't care about what's going on with air quality and like, are the dolphins doing okay? You're like, I'm hungry, I gotta eat, right? And then once you're full, you can start looking around and being like, okay, there's other things, right? And so I think for me, that mindset piece, like, oh my God, I'm so much better at just determining what aligns with my purpose. I'm so much better at being like, I actually don't
Come
care
on.
about this. And I will actually give like a really good example of this. So most of my program focus in Fulfilled was around international development because I was like, okay, this looks like what I want to do. And I interviewed people and I made it around and people started coming to me. I got really good at networking. Someone was like, okay, this job is coming up. Send me your resume again. Like I was doing all of that and reporting back. Um, and this was around the time that I also like asked for more money. Like that mindset thing, it would have been impossible for me to ask for more money if that hadn't happened. But I was like, I am doing so much for these people. And when I put it all together and like showed it to my boss, he was like, yeah, there's no way I can deny that you need more money. And they went and they found it. And then I like negotiated this other position. I was like, okay, project director sounds cool. Let's do this while I work on what's next, right? So this idea of like a bridge job or like something that I can do that can tie me over, and tie me over it did. Like I negotiated to make sure that I got all of the money I needed for my salary so that I can take care of what I need to take care of at home and like be stable while I look for something else. And I take a lot of those qualities that I also love, supporting people, helping people, and I bring that to helping the fellows in our program move up. And that for me is a win too, right? Like being able to be present for people and help them and support them.
Yeah.
So I was really interested in international development. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And then one day I sat up and I was like, I don't know, like there's something about this that like there are a lot of the qualities that I'm seeing that I love here, but it's not creative enough, like I think the problem with NGOs too, a lot of these are NGOs and they don't pay that well. And it took a long time. And I learned in this program to be like, love this work, not willing to starve. Love this work, got to pay my
Yeah.
mortgage. Love this work, but like this is not enough for me. And
Mm.
so I like harnessed my mindset and like harnessed my skills and sat down again. I was like, what do you like? I like museums. I like museum work. I would be an awesome curator. So I started negotiating. I started talking to people. I started expanding my network. I met a whole bunch of curators. And at the same time, I also joined, as you talked, like one of your amazing speakers said, you should get on an executive board. I got on an executive board of an NGO that works with Black women in Latin America. They're flying me to Brazil at the beginning of July to organize a panel and to do some interviews. There's full expenses paid.
Oh,
Um, and so I was like, yeah, I'm interested in this. And so I did it. Like I pivoted and I feel so good about it because I also have this job that works for me and I have the income while I wait to hear what's going to happen. So I just feel like I'm in charge of my own narrative. I feel like I am aware of what I am worth. I know what I bring to the table and I have a better sense of what I want to contribute to the world.
yes.
Like, and all of that brings me a deep sense of peace and like capability. And I still get scared and I still get nervous, but like, I know where I can go. I know that I have the ability to do that. And this program, like, just helped me harness all of that. I know
Yes.
I just talked a lot. So like,
It was
if I missed
incredible. I was
anything.
tracking. I was tracking. I mean, one thing we say in Fulfilled is we don't help you discover your purpose. We help you uncover it. It's
Yeah,
in you already.
most
So
definitely.
it was already in you. And what I love too, Eshe, is you gave yourself permission to pivot. You weren't so obsessed with ID, like I've got to do it. I found the thing. You sat down and you reassessed and you were able to ask yourself the right questions. And Fulfilled empowers you and equips you to ask yourself the right questions so you can get the right answers. So I love that you found your niche. And now if I've heard you correctly, you started off maybe just a couple years ago as a fellow. And what is your role now?
I am a project director.
So you went from fellow to project director. And if you do the math in your head of how much you were making as a fellow and now as a director, what would you say your salary increase is? And you could do percentage or whatever.
I would say it's probably close to 50%
increase.
Yeah.
In just a couple years. Doing work that you love.
Yep.
And you were just telling me that you're up for a like super dream role. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, well, first the job that I was doing before, and this was also like an internal hire. Like they liked me so much, they're like, please stay on and do this. And so that was like a lot of internal negotiation. I was like, great, you want me? This is what I'm going to need from you. I'm not going to be tied up with your admin stuff anymore. You're just going to send everything I need to me straight. And they were like, yes, we want you, do this, make it happen. And again, would not have had, like, I think I would have just been like, well, whatever they're giving me, it sounds horrible, but I guess it sounds good because what other option? I was like, no. I'm not signing up for anything that is going to give me a headache now, like before it's even happening. Absolutely not. And then, yeah, so this pivot, we still don't know, like it's still in the pipeline, but yeah, this also happened from networking. So I just started asking around. I asked, and like, it is so amazing. When you ask people, people want to talk, people want to share with you. I went to my mentor, I went to 2 other people I know. And before I knew it, I was inside the institution I wanted to work in.
Wow.
And I talked to the person who had the job that it was currently open. She was like, look, I'm getting out of here. Like I'm leaving. So if you're interested in this, stick around. I also talked to like 2 or 3 other people who she used to work with. They're like, look, you sound like you're ready for this. You sound like I'd be interested in like collaborating with you as well. So I had all that internal stuff. I got all the way up to the VP.
Goodness.
He asked me to apply. And he was just like, look, we need help. This is what we're working on. What are you doing? And I started asking questions, right? I was like, so what are you doing? What have you been doing? And then I went back outside and like kept on networking. And so when this position opened up, I was pretty much ready. I had my references ready to go. I sat down with the job application and everything, tweaked up my resume, sent it in. I did my research. Like, I think that's the one thing that people don't realize is like how much work it does require, right? And so I was like, okay, EC says we research. So I was like, what have been their problems? What are their major issues? I did a deep dive in the news because they had some bad stuff happen. I was like, this is good to know about. So I can work a solution into my responses. I said, okay, I had some questions, and even the consultant who they hired to ask was like, these are excellent questions. You should definitely ask the committee, like write these down. I was like, oh, I already got my Word doc.
Period.
Just train me. I'm ready to go. I got a spreadsheet. I got a Word doc. What do you need? So yeah. And I was ready to go. I had talked to people. They were like, you need to know this, this, and this. I know this is on the job description. You don't need to worry about that. Like, I was like, I'm not playing. Like, I want this job. I would be so good at this. And this is like so well aligned with what I love to do. Like, give me a chance. You will never regret it. Wow. So yeah, I'm still waiting to hear what's going to happen. But I think one thing I also really learned from you as well is like celebrate along the way. Like the fact that I was even able and in the position to make it this far means something. And like, if, I really want this, and if I didn't get it, obviously I'd be sad, but like the knowledge that I am capable of pulling it together, of talking to people, of advocating for myself, of putting myself out there, that is invaluable information. Like it truly is, because so many people are so capable, but they just don't have the self-esteem. They don't feel like they're worth it. They don't feel like they have a right to it. And so they sit back and let other people who are not qualified, but have a big mouth, step in and take what could have been theirs. Right. So I really think, and I think the further I get from the program, that mindset thing is like, it really is the change that makes the most lasting impact.
Yeah. And that's why we start there, right? Like, we don't touch resume for like until like the 4th like module.
Yeah.
because it's like we've got to get the foundation set. And you have such a sense of self. And I love what you said. Like, I see like 10 wins here. Whether or not you get the role, I mean, we always say what's for you is for you.
Mm-hmm.
The impression you have made, the VP is gonna be like, well, where else can we put her? Okay, like, well, if that role wasn't right, can we put her here? Because you are just such a ball of amazingness. Like, to ask questions, and the person interviewing is like, yeah, you need to actually ask the committee that, because you've done the work. It's just, again, it's the skills here. It's the skills. You can walk into any room, you can sit at any table. You're being flown out to Brazil to speak and put on a panel. Like, look at your life.
Yeah, I feel like there's always something to improve. There's always something that you want to change, but like I have a really good life.
Come
I'm
on.
really happy with my
Come
life, and
on.
I'm
Come on.
happy with myself. Like I'm really proud of what I have achieved. Like I'm proud of myself as a person, and I feel like so many Black women in particular, like we don't feel like we can say that. It's cocky, it's bragging, but like we are so capable. And when we get really excited about stuff, we can do so much. And like that's why I love working with Black people, is because I truly believe that we have so much potential. And yeah, like I got really into it. I feel like when you're really into, and I think this is the thing about a dream job, is like it's not that it's not work, like that's a lie. But when you really care about it, I was in the institution the day before my interview so that I could go in there and be like, here's a list of things I noted. They're like, what would you do first? And I was like, already got it. I got my list of 3 things that I would do: short term, midterm, long term. If I get that next interview, I'm going in with a plan, because I'm not kidding. I've got the plan. It's not that hard. You just have to be prepared. I am from here. I know this place. I know what's going on. Your back end wants me. I'm ready to go. Like, if you don't want me, then that's fine. But like, you might be crazy. I would be amazing at this.
You might be. It's the confidence for me, but that's the power of clarity.
Absolutely.
You are so clear on what you want, what you're good at, the impact. All I hear is clarity, clarity, clarity. And that's why we focus on clarity so much in Fulfilled. Because when you're clear, like even the way I coach with obsession, because I'm so clear, like I'm called to this. It's not because I'm running a company or whatever. No, like there are people running companies who are miserable, but I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're not, oh, on Instagram, this person has his life, so let me try to become a web developer because everyone's doing. You are an anthropologist, baby, and that's what you're going to be. And you're going to work with the Afro-Latina community, and that's what you're going to do. And that's how you're going to change the world. So like, you've been so true to yourself. And one thing I love is, there was so much strategy here. When we speak in Fulfilled, yes, your passion is important. And it's important to be able to understand what you love without the dollar signs yet. Because sometimes we judge too early and then we kill the dream. And that's why when kids were like 6 or 7 or 8 and they loved animation or they loved writing and people told them you'd be broke, you could never do that, it killed the dream. Mm-hmm. But they could have made millions. So if you keep on this track, you can become the known expert. We're talking books, we're talking speaking fees, we're talking you're curating experiences across the globe or across Spain, like across South America. But if someone had said, you want to go to school, you want to be an anthropologist, are you crazy? You're going to be hungry forever. It would have killed it. So there was something in you that called you into that place. Mm-hmm. You came into Fulfilled, we helped you harness it and focus it. And now you're just, that's it, you're running. So I loved it. And I loved how you were able to still pivot within, like, if I keep going down this path, I'm not gonna be able to pay my mortgage. And I don't like that because broke doesn't look good on me. So you still took the elements of what was most important and you funneled it into a direction that is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I really felt like it's the strategy, like you're saying, like and I think that what I also developed from Fulfilled was like an ability to zoom out, right? Like, where do you want to go with this? You don't have to have an absolute idea, but if you can even think like 2, 3 steps ahead, that can be such a lifesaver, because otherwise it's like all these snap decisions. You keep making all these snap decisions and we're like, how did I get here? Like, where am I? What am I doing here? And I think I also learned to tune into myself. Like the decision to pivot from ID was like, oh, I don't actually think I like this. I like all the people I'm talking to, and I love the passion in their voices. And ultimately, I like what their end goal is. But I don't know if this, like when they're describing what they do on a daily basis, I'm like, hmm, I don't think that's it, like that's not it. It's not, it doesn't have the creative element. It doesn't have like that sort of like space for possibility and growth. Because I think knowing myself, like I need to be someplace where there is possibility for change. That's what's going to make me stay, because then I'm like, okay, I'm in this place, but there are all these different things I can do. I have so many interests.
Yes.
Like I need to be in a space that can give, like, has a flexible enough container that I can do that. And I definitely learned that in this program, that there are so many possibilities for jobs. Like when I was little, I didn't even know what an anthropologist was. It was doctor, lawyer,
That's
maybe
it.
accountant, like, which is so common in Black communities, right? Because we want to be well, we want to be affluent, we want to be respected in society. And I didn't even know, right? Like there's so many opportunities out there. And so I think being in the program like really gave me a space where you're like, go explore. And if you don't have that designated space, it so often doesn't happen, right? So it was like fulfilled for me. It was a space of exploration. It was a space of affirmation. It was a space of getting pushed, like the push I needed. Um, and yeah, that like feeling of like of 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 companionship,
Yes.
like
Oh,
feeling accompanied.
yeah.
Um, and I truly believe that you have like really mastered this skill of like when you can be happy for someone else, you can be so happy for yourself. Like I almost I feel like the same amount of pleasure of like hearing one of the women be like, I've been pushing and pushing and I finally had this breakthrough. And I'm like, I could not be prouder of you. Like my day is now better because I know how much you've been working for this.
Yeah.
And we are not taught that. We are taught the opposite of that. And so I thank you for like creating that dynamic in your space. It's really beautiful and very rare.
Thank you. Yeah, we celebrate until today. We don't start coaching without celebrating.
Mhm.
Always think it has to be something big. I'm like, if you connect with one person, if you shifted your mindset, if you chose to show up when you didn't want to, if you had a conversation, and then the women just start coming out of the woodworks. And I'm like, girl, you have 2 interviews? Yeah, what? We're like yelling at people, and so it's just, you're right. We have created that space where people celebrate. And when you celebrate and focus on good, it multiplies. And that's why we see our women just explode forth the way they do. I would love to end with this, Eshe. I would love you to tell me, what would you say to another woman who is considering fulfilled, who is worried about possibly investing thousands in her future? Or will I really be able to figure out what I want to do? Or is this really the right space for me? What would you say to her?
I think if you're already at that point where you're like, I'm half on, like something is speaking to you about this, I think you have to bet on yourself.
Yeah.
You have to bet on yourself. And this program will give you the life skills. I really think it's like that, like teach a man to fish or give a man a fish
Mm-hmm.
and he is fed for a day, but you teach a man to fish and he will never go hungry again. This is that program.
Yeah.
I cannot express how much this program really helped me.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that for you too. Like I want you to feel the way I feel.
Yeah.
I think it makes you a better employee. I think it makes you a better entrepreneur. I think it makes you just a better person to have that like sense of calm when you're not constantly like, is this right? What's going on? Like the sense of calm in your mind, it's worth it. And
Yeah.
yes, it is an investment, but literally my salary is 50% higher than what it was before. And I'm not guaranteeing that that would happen like over the same amount of time, but believe me, when I heard it happening to other women, I was like, oh, that's a nice thing that can happen to somebody else. But then it happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not impossible. There is a lot of money out there and you have every right to it. So bet on yourself. This is an incredible community. EC is so caring and so dedicated to your growth and well-being as a person, that this is such a tremendous space. I cannot recommend it more.
Eshe, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Izzy.
Thank you for doing the work, because it's one thing to have an incredible program, but if you're just going to sit there like a bump on a log, nothing happens. So I
Oh
think,
yeah, it's work.
yeah, she's like, oh, and did I tell you you're going to do your work? Yeah.
Yeah, it's work. But you know what? At least for me, sometimes people need to pay the money because listen, quick anecdote. I used to work at a volunteer summer camp. Some of those kids would show up sometimes. Some of them would leave early. Some of them would be like, I don't know if I feel like coming for the rest of the week. Someone, you hear from somebody else, all of a sudden, they just decide to get on a plane and go to the Philippines. And you're like, but we were supposed to do something. Those kids went to another camp where they paid $10 and everybody showed up. Sometimes people need to spend their money in order, unfortunately, to really value what's going on. If I paid all that money and didn't do any work, then at least in my brain, like something's wrong.
Yeah. Joke's on you. Okay.
Yeah, joke's on you because someone just took your money. Like you have to work for yourself. And I think that's what this program is teaching you, like work for yourself. You paid the money, so do the work. It is worth it. But it is work, but it's worth it.
It's work, but it's worth it. It's work, but it's worth it. It's an investment, but it's worth it.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Eshe, so much. Blessings on your journey. I know this is not the last of it. I can't wait to hear. Either way you win. That's something my coach taught me. This process that you're in, first of all, going from fellow to director in a few years. How many years was that?
Yeah, I finished my fellowship was like 2.5 years and I jumped right into director.
From fellow to director, traveling the world, doing amazing things. Just blessed by your story. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you, Izzy.
you're welcome.
Thank you. And I will email you and let you know how it goes.
I know you will. You have a
I'll
great day.
let you know.
We'll talk soon.
Take care, Izzy.
Goodbye.
Bye.